Hello, Sunday School teachers. This is Unit 7, Lesson 6, a temple cleansing. Today we're going to be talking from John chapter 2, verses 13 to 22. Let us hear the gospel. The Passover of the Jews was at hand, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple he found those who were selling oxen and sheep and pigeons, and the money changers sitting there. And making a whip of cords, he drove them all out of the temple with the sheep and oxen. And he poured out the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. And he told those who sold the pigeons, "Take these things away. Do not make my Father's house a house of trade." His disciples remembered that it was written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." So the Jews said to him, "What sign do you show us for doing these things?" Jesus answered them, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." The Jews then said, "It has taken 46 years to build this temple, and will you raise it up in 3 days?" But he was speaking about the temple of his body. When therefore he was raised from the dead, his disciples remembered that he had said this, and they believed the scripture and the word that Jesus had spoken. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So, a few things about the background for this particular text. The time frame. John shows this at the very beginning of his gospel, but this is something that takes place the day that Jesus triumphantly enters Jerusalem on the donkey, Palm Sunday's narrative. Okay, and we hear about this cleansing in the other gospels as well. He's cleansing the temple because a whole bunch of inappropriate activity has crept itself into the temple establishment. Okay, so remember, we have two groups of people. We have the Pharisees and we have the Sadducees. And the Sadducees are those who were taking care of the things of the temple. And remember, way back in the Old Testament, who are those who took care of the temple or the tabernacle, the holy things of God? They were the tribe of Levi, the tribe of Levi. And so the Sadducees are Levites. The Pharisees, on the other hand, are those who came out of the dispersion, those teachers, and that's why many Pharisees are called rabbis. They come out of the dispersion because they are teaching the law and the prophets out in the different places where they had ended up after Nebuchadnezzar took them away to Babylon. Okay. Now, another difference between Sadducees and Pharisees. Pharisees believe in all of the scriptures. They believe in the resurrection of the dead. They believe in angels. Whereas the Sadducees only take the 5 books of Moses. They do not believe in angels. They do not believe in the resurrection of all flesh. Okay, so you have some locking of heads here. You'll see this in the trial of St. Paul, where he sees who his accusers are, and he sort of drops that bomb in there. He says, "Oh, I'm on trial today because of the resurrection of the dead." And then he watches them just fight about it because the Sadducees are like, "No, there's no resurrection of the dead." And the Pharisees, "Yes, there is," and so on and so forth. Now, here in the temple, the people are under the command and the control of the Roman Empire. Thus, in the Roman Empire, the coinage, remember denariuses and the like, they are Roman coins, Roman currency. And it was decided by the Sadducees and the religious establishment that Roman currency was not going to be used inside the temple for holy reasons, that it was desecrated or that it was outcast coin. And so, in order to properly give a gift at the temple, you needed to change your Roman currency in for temple currency. And then if you were coming from large distances, you didn't want to, or at least they made this available, you didn't want to carry your sheep with you that you were going to use as your sacrificial animal. And so there were those there who sold sheep, and therefore you could leave home and have less luggage and not worry about a lamb or 2 turtle doves or whatever they happen to be. You change in your Roman currency for temple currency and buy a sheep with your new temple currency, and then you have a sheep for sacrifice. Now, of course, what are they doing when they change the money? When they sell sheep, they're making a profit. They're adding a tax. They're doing the very thing that they're upset about the tax collectors for doing. Okay? And so they are making money off of the sacrificial system, which is meant to take away the debt of God's people, the debt of sin, and to restore them in a right relationship with God. All right? So this infuriates Jesus, right? And he makes a whip of cords and he drives out all of those who were selling. He undoes and opens up the coins, and they go flying everywhere. He flips tables. He tells them who has allowed you to make my father's house into a house of trade. Okay, and they want to know why he has any authority to say anything like this. What sign will you show us that you have this authority? And he says, this temple, you destroy it, and I'll raise it up in 3 days. Now, they're standing in the Temple of Solomon, which took 46 years to create. But he's talking about his own body, this presence of God. Where the presence of God is, that is the holy place. That is the temple. And so the presence of God, of course, present in front of them in this man, Jesus, who is the God-man, Jesus. And he says, yes, he's predicting and foretelling his death by crucifixion, that he will triumph over death and the grave by rising again to new life.